Hey honey, you can always skip this long-winded beginning part that I do. As you can probably tell by now, I'm pretty long-winded. A large part of this is probably a bit of therapy for me to kind of speak like this. So you can always skip it and go right to the heart of it, the actual heart of the content. And in this episode, I wanted to introduce you to a very successful writer in Hollywood. So in case you want to be a writer and see what that's like, remember, I don't like the word dream because it oftentimes makes it seem like it's something out of reach. Instead, you should set a goal and then you should come up with a strategy that you can execute to achieve that goal. One of my good friends, she said her favorite quote by me is, "Never be impressed with anybody." And I said that to her early on. And the reason I said that to her, which she knows, I said it's because these are all humans doing something. You know, no one's coming down like a god with some kind of magical power doing something. It's a human with all of the limitations that you have. Not only limitations, but the strengths that you have too. So like if you see somebody doing something that seems unachievable, remember that's a human doing it. A human who has to eat and use the bathroom and sleep and wants to love and can get sick and is susceptible and has insecurities and things like that. So they're a human, you're a human. So if you want to do something, there's a way to go, you aim for it, to go set a goal and to go set a plan and then to execute that strategy and see if it works for you. And we can go into great detail for all this in later episodes. There's going to be like a whole bunch of episodes about that, but it's a really big idea for me. It's like the reason why I tried anything in Hollywood, which I'll go into in another episode too because it's so long. But I wanted to try the hardest thing that I could think of. And I set the goal to become a writer there, which I didn't achieve, and somehow which I'm very thankful for, I somehow outdid my wildest dreams. Also, I'm not meant to be like a writer, like a Hollywood writer. I've now come to realize I just don't have what it takes in like my pantry. There's like a certain work ethic and a certain personality for it, which I don't have, which is okay. One of my bosses in the past, he had a great bio that said, "Meet me at the intersection of art and commerce," which I love because a lot of artists will do art for the sake of art, which is great, which is fine. But I believe that you should be having a living off of it, and not only any living, but like a good living. You should be wealthy from it. So I hope to get you there if this is one of those things that you want to do. And I have a quote by Sylvia Plath as I'm reading The Bell Jar now, which is about her, and she talks about her worries about money and things like that as she wants to be like a writer and a poet. And so these worries and these insecurities are not just for yours or my generation. It's been there in the past, and there's an ever moving economy, so you kind of got to move with it and you have to understand the business. But yeah, let's just start by talking to a successful Hollywood writer. I've known this guy for over a decade. I remember him trying from like the trenches and then making it, which is awesome. So there's something in Hollywood called above the line talent, which I don't really love the name of, but what it essentially means is directing, writing, and acting. This is like the triumvirate. These are the three things that can affect the most creatively. But it's something you should also think about, because what if you have the best director but not so much the best actors or the best writers, or the best writers but not the best other two, etc. And I've come up with an idea which says that you could have a subpar story, like subpar script, filmed with the best equipment, the best directing, and like the best acting, but it still won't be as good as the best story and the best script shot on like a potato, basically, with the worst acting. Because you can direct actors to like eventually do what you want to do, and you can direct something, but the story, that's what humans most resonate with, story. And we'll go into this on several other episodes, how powerful story is. It's what drives everything, which includes this, you in your life, my life, and everyone before us. It's the most powerful thing that I could think of is story. You can read a little bit about this in brief in like Sapiens, for example. That author, Harari, mentions the power of story, which is absolutely true. Once you understand like the magnitude of it, you can't unsee it. You see it everywhere. So as I'm learning all about like directing and all that stuff now, there's a great movie called Tokyo Story, and that's shot, I think, one by one, black and white, not that high quality, but the story is there, and so that's what makes that such a great moving film.
私、いつまでもこのままじゃいられないような気もするんです。このままこうして一人でいたら、一体どうなるんだろうなんて夜中にふと考えたりすることがあるんです。
So story is number one. Why I'm saying this is because there is no profession in Hollywood that I respect more than the writers. I think it is as close to like a godlike position as you can be, because you're literally creating something out of nothing. It's just a blank page, and you are now you're coming up with like the blueprint of this world, and you can do whatever you want on that page. And certain stories stand the test of time and are still being told for thousands of years, and there's a reason why. So that was like a terrible intro to this whole thing, because I keep stuttering, which is like a really sad thing for me. It's ironic, because for somebody with so much to say, my affliction is my stutter. I've tried to crop most of it out in the edit, but it's just it's becoming like a bit too much. But that's okay. We can deal with it. So let's bring on Brian Shin. He's awesome. Let's see what he has to say, if he's awake. Yo!
Hello.
Good. This is like a Dear Daughter episode about how to become a really successful Hollywood writer, like I know you are.
All right.
All right, cool.
Boston accent and everything. I love it.
Let's start with, if you were talking to my daughter, say she's like 20, 21, 22, graduating from university, she wants to go out west, and she wants to be a writer for TV or cinema, or like a playwright, like where does she even start? What should she be doing? What should she be focusing on? What are like the Pareto principles, even like the 1, 2, or 3 things that if she worked on the hardest, it would yield like the most outcome?
Sure. So I'll start with something very basic for me. I think this is the foundation, of at least the skill of writing for me. It's to be a voracious reader. And I think specifically when it comes to screenplays, what I would do is, I'd say list 10 of your favorite films or television shows in multiple genres, and then find the scripts for them and read the scripts and just read and read and read. And you'll discover different styles and forms. They talk about having your voice on the page. And I think the way you define that is kind of that you can sense, this is a Jake Matthews script, this is a Brian Shin script. I can tell it because of the form or the tone or the attitude on the page. And I think a way to kind of understand what that is to read scripts as many as you possibly can. And, instead of just watching all the programs, because I think it's easy to watch something and kind of turn your brain off and enjoy it. But I think as a writer, specifically in the form of screenwriting, reading voraciously tons in scripts and kind of discovering your own form and your own voice. And there's nowadays, when I was coming up, you kind of had to, it was hard to find these scripts and resources. Nowadays, you can just Google, Bridesmaids PDF script, and you can find these things online. If you're fortunate enough to be in Los Angeles, you can go to the Writers Guild Library, and there's a great kind of platform there with both physical and digital scripts. So that's my first piece of advice, is just to read as many screenplays as possible. You can do this for free. You don't have to take classes to do this. And you're really going to start to understand and break down the format of the screenplay. But again, you'll experience different voices and discover your own.
So you don't need to as much cater your voice to like the economics of the industry at the time?
No, because I don't think there's like a time in the industry where like this is the type of voice. When I say voice, I mean like the way you format your words on the page. Sometimes you'll kind of integrate, like a character will say something pithy, then you'll say your reaction to it on the page. It's more like, so no, I don't think it's a thing where you have to conform to what you think the industry wants on the page. I think it's really your own style.
How did you get your start, and what were the highs and the lows of you becoming a writer?
I got my start. I think that's a tough question, essentially, because there's so many steps. There's never really one moment where this is it. Mm-hmm. But I really do want to bring you into this, in that the CBS Sketch Diversity Showcase they did, I think it's 2014, a long time ago. That to me was very much, I think it was a shift in mindset for me, actually meeting you, somebody that was so driven and so focused and so professional in pursuing the goal. And the fact that we had to jump through so many hurdles, and in many ways that sketch, it was a competition in many ways. Mm-hmm. It was. Mm-hmm. And I think my trajectory in meeting you and the beginning of that huge competition, kind of flailing and struggling, and then having the resilience, discovering what they wanted, what the form was, and really finding a creative partner that also kind of propelled me to work harder and to work tirelessly. You know, you and I would work till 2, 3 a.m. sometimes at night, and then actually making it into that competition. I think that was a shift in my mindset. I think I always had the natural talent and ability, but I never really had, I don't think I had that mature mindset until that moment with you. And from there, you know, immediately after, it wasn't like a springboard to something, but from there, having that mindset, I wrote kind of my first sample, a pilot, kind of a father-son pilot that won all these competitions, got me writing the Disney ABC Writing Fellowship. And that's what got me my first like actual television show. So I think you can kind of use that as a benchmark for when I made it. But I really, you know, I'm not saying this to blow smoke. I really think that meeting you and that experience in that showcase was a pivotal moment for me, and just kind of mindset. And you know, that's another piece of advice that I think it's, especially if you go to Los Angeles, I think it's easy to kind of lose sight of the goal, because it takes a while, I think, to get into this industry. And during that time period, I think it's easy to kind of lose sight and just kind of enjoy life. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying life, but you got to be laser focused. You have to kind of have your eyes on the prize and just be professional and mature. And I think that's something that I saw in you, that you brought out of me.
That's very nice to say. I didn't expect you to say that, and I completely agree. If you were to kind of break down what scientifically is happening there, do you think that the benefit was that for something as, you know, loosey-goosey as, you know, trying to be a writer in LA, we had rules on ourselves where like we were seeing, you know, constraints finally, you know, we had mentorship, we had, you know, competition, we had a writing partner, we had like a deadline, you know what I mean? Like versus just, you know, someone, you know, in a cottage, you know, trying to write a book with no deadlines or anything, you know, they may never get it done.
Yeah.
But the fact that we were in like a feedback loop where there was, you know, constantly like a constraint on us, that might have helped, right? Like get us, you know, laser focused.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, so I think that's another piece of advice is, you know, so, you know, the reading scripts and learning, that's the craft thing. The other thing is there are a list of resources of things you can apply to, right? There's these fellowships, and the thing about these fellowships are there's deadlines. There's hard deadlines to them, right? And there's guidelines. You have to write an example episode of a show from our networks, like, and it's due on June 17th at midnight. And I think getting those lists, and if you guys want, I can send you a list of these resources. But basically, it gives you exactly what you're talking about. It gives you specific guidelines for what you need to accomplish and when you need to accomplish it. And I think, look, after you break in, you do need to have that independent spirit, that independent engine that is going to produce material outside of these deadlines. But to start, because like you said, it's very amorphous. I think when you first move out here, it's like, what exactly am I supposed to do when? It's not clear. But I do think those fellowships, they create deadlines. You know, some people may say, hey, I feel like these are not meritocracies, or this one doesn't do this. And there may be some truth that at the end of the day, what it does guarantee, it guarantees you will finish a new piece of writing at a specific date. And that is a win, no matter what the result is. I don't care if you finish last place in all these competitions. That is a win to finish a new piece of material. That is a new arrow in your quiver. Like, so for sure, that I think that is a resource. That would be my number 2 thing, is getting a list of these, you know, fellowships. Don't do the ones that cost money to enter. Those are usually scams, honestly. But find the ones that are free to enter, that kind of have a good reputation, and then really hold yourself to that deadline and understand at the end of the road, if you finish a new piece of writing, you are a better writer for it. That piece may not be the calling card, it may not be perfect, but it's going to get you closer to improving every single time.
Can you speak to some of like the extracurricular stuff that goes on there, like outside of writing, like, you know, agents, managers, diversity?
I mean, I'll start with the diversity aspect of that. I can't use foul language here, right?
Yeah, sure. I don't.
Okay. I'm trying to remember who said this. I want to read the quote, but basically this person said, Hollywood is an equal opportunity fucker. And what he was saying is that no matter who you are, whatever your background is, there's gonna be some unfair segment that applies to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. And the reason why I bring this up is, it's true, and I'm sure in some instances it may be more true in some segments than others, but the reason why I bring it up is that at the end of the day, especially in this industry, if you want to look at things through the lens of, I can't get this opportunity because I'm blank, or this person got somebody because they're blank, you can probably find a way to do that legitimately, but it's going to accomplish nothing for yourself. I think at the end of the day, you make your own luck in many ways in the industry through your work ethic. And B, you can't, fretting over things you have no control over does you no good at all, right? So let's say there is an instance where it's like, oh, they don't want me on this television show that's my dream show because I'm not, a biracial Martian from Antarctica, right? Like, that it does you no good. And and the reality is that biracial Martian isn't getting on their dream show for some arbitrary reason as well. So I think overall, the thing I always tell people about this is that no, it's not the most even playing field, but it is an uneven playing field for everybody. But if you can't get over the fact that it's not a meritocracy, it's just not the industry for you.
Okay.
I think you should go into a more stable industry that has a little bit more of an even playing field. I do think every industry kind of has these issues nowadays. But I really think it's the bottom line for me is you can't control it. You can't control those issues and aspects. So you have to accept it is what it is, and that you do have the control over your work ethic and making your own luck, or you have to accept that you don't have that control and you can't accept that. And then I think you're probably better off going in a different path in life.
A little bit of like a rebuttal here. Sometimes, a little bit of a pushback. Sometimes, there is enough, complaining such that the complaint is like legitimate. My pushback is on like if enough people do complain where they actually feel that there's like a legitimate concern, that's okay too once in a while, right?
Sure, yeah. I think if it's in the spirit of uplifting and supporting and demonstrating to the buyers that this market exists, right? Where it's like,
right.
Hey, me and you, like Boston raised Kerala, son of immigrants, group of people that really speak up and say, hey, there's this really talented stand-up comedian we saw, and we'd love to see a show from him. I think that's great. But I feel like so much of the focus on these conversations is always the opposite vibe and tone of that, which is the negative thing, which is being like saying, I'm so persecuted that nobody will give me an opportunity, and the only people that get opportunity are blank, these people, and shame on you. Like, that's very much, I think, the tenor of what the internet is and social media is now. And again, I don't think that serves anybody well. I don't think the buyer, when they see those messages, I don't think it inspires them, right? Whereas the opposite version of that is instead you tweet out a clip of somebody from one of those groups that doesn't have a show, and this person is really funny or very dramatic and talented, and then that buyer executive is like, wow, I see this talent, as opposed to just kind of attacking. And then, on the flip side, the person that's complaining about those things, like, I shouldn't usually complain, but I will. I don't think that instills confidence in them. I don't think it sparks them to work harder to pursue what they want.
I agree.
And so, yeah, that's my rebuttal to your rebuttal.
When did you know you wanted to be a writer as opposed to anything else?
This is a tough question for me. I feel like I've always kind of responded as a writer to things. Creative writing and prose is something I did, even keeping a journal as a little kid. I think for me, screenwriting was something that came to me was my super senior year of college. I audited a screenwriting class. My buddy was in college, was taking all these screenwriting classes, and I didn't even know it was a forum. It was taught by this Detroit Free Press film critic. And basically, at the end of the class, that teacher, the professor, pulled me aside and he said, hey, Brian, I think if this is something you want to pursue, I think you have the ability to do it. And that's what they told me. And I think that moment sparked a few things for me. A, that this was a possibility, and B, that somebody had the faith and belief in me that I could do it, which kind of helped me believe that too. So I think specifically when I decided I wanted to pursue a screenwriting career was that. Shout out to Terry Lawson, Detroit Free Press critic.
That's awesome. Real quick, would you name a couple of the shows that you are a writer for? Or were?
Yeah, I've been on The Good Doctor, it's medical procedural on ABC. Good Trouble, which is a freeform drama show. I'm developing a feature with Paramount based on a YA novel. I've also been on the CBS Diversity Showcase with Jake Matthews, 2014. Shout out.
Okay. Let's say you're designing her first year to 3 years in Hollywood. What should she be doing step by step? Go write 3 scripts and then I'm approach an agent and then go get into a contest? or go find a mentor and go see a producer, or go write one script? What should she be doing her first 1 to 3 years? And also, how should she be supporting herself financially while she's not working as a writer?
So my advice on this stuff is always a little more practical. I think to answer that last question, I think it's get any of those jobs, whether you're working as a valet, as a waiter, as a brand ambassador. And the reason why I bring that up is because, man, working these jobs, like, especially these lower paying jobs, you will meet characters and experience parts of your life and kind of have the specific thing you can draw from as a writer that you won't in any other way. As opposed to, like, if you're just going to move out to Los Angeles and immediately start working, that's great. That's a blessing. But I think you miss out on those opportunities of growth when you're kind of in the muck working these jobs. So I think for sure, get those jobs. Don't feel you're above those jobs. There's something about the misery of those jobs that creates this camaraderie. It creates this camaraderie amongst your colleagues.
Absolutely.
That makes you really understand kind of the workplace and the dynamics. And you're going to meet people from totally different backgrounds. Like I have a friend, she's working at the LAX library, LAX bookstore right now, LAX bookstore, Terminal 2.
Wow.
But she's been a working writer on shows. And when first someone asked, that's crazy. And then she started telling me the stories about some of the other people that work in the bookstore. Man, these are characters you can put into a world. So yeah, I think for sure, get those jobs, get those regular hourly jobs, ones that you have some flexibility to write. But I think embrace those, because you're gonna be able to draw from those, and you're gonna be able to build some bonds and friendships with people too, for sure. Yeah, I think on the end of mentorship and meeting mentors, I mean, a lot of that stuff is honestly, a lot of that's resources, right? So you may have that, you may not have that. I do think when it comes to finding those people, I think my piece of advice is that the connections you have with people like that, don't force them. I think there are organic relationships in life, right? There are some people you're going to meet that you're just going to kind of have more of a connection with than others. And those are the ones that, if you want to mentor, you want to kind of want to lean towards that. Whereas, like, let's say you do get introduced to some really big name producer, right, that can help you, but you just don't have that same vibe, right? That same level, that same personality match. I don't think you should force those relationships. I think it's all about kind of organically connecting to somebody and then progressively kind of building that relationship, right? You meet them, you exchange emails, you congratulate them, and then you kind of build the relationship from there. You don't go from 0 to 100. So yeah, I don't know how helpful that is. No,
that's awesome. Can she use you as a resource in 25 years?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Look me up if I'm alive.
All right, man. I forget if I had any other questions, but is there anything that you want to get off your chest that you think of? No worries if not. I just
Don't lose that exuberance. When you come out here and you have that twinkle in your eye, it's so easy to kind of get dragged down and kind of become cynical. Another thing you told me once is that, I think this came from somebody else, but I love you told me, is that the easiest emotion is cynicism. It's the easiest one. And when you first come out here, especially if you're coming from outside this industry, this world, you have this discovery, there's this magical, the possibilities of the world are endless. And it really propels you to keep going and to kind of have this excitement in life. Don't let anybody take that from you. Hold on to that as long as you can, because that's something that's infectious, something people respond to, and it's just going to keep you going. So always hold on to that hope and that faith, and again, the wonder of possibility. Not even just in industry, just in life overall.
I don't remember if I independently came up with that or if I also heard that.
It was Conan O'Brien.
Right.
I remember.
Right.
Conan O'Brien.
Right. The Conan O'Brien sign off.
That's Conan's the next episode, you guys. Hang in there.
How did it feel? How does it feel when you're on set and you see your words, being shot?
If I'm being honest, I was so angst-ridden the first time I was on set.
Okay.
Just because I wanted to do a good job of bringing the script to life for the showrunner of my show. I'll say the second episode that I was on, it was great. I was more comfortable talking to the actors and kind of giving help on the lines and seeing it come to life. And I remember I kind of had this two characters, that were in like Star Wars kind of cosplay, that they had met at like a Star Wars convention and fell in love through like the jargon, and seeing them in like the Star Wars garb done by professional wardrobe people, that was cool. That was exciting. So yeah, I would say the first time I was more anxious right around set. But the second time I enjoyed it. It was cool.
Will you come back on a later date to kind of go through like the nitty gritty on like how you write a script and like the writer's room and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
Cool. All right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, bro. We'll talk soon. Later.
Bye.
Yeah. There you go. That's Brian Shin. I didn't expect him to say all that about CBS in the middle. I haven't told you what that stuff is yet because the curriculum is kind of coming out in a certain way, but that's where we met, was working for CBS, and that's where I got my like major, or like my big break as they call it, which I don't like that term. But I owe CBS a lot, and I owe him a lot. So we worked together until some nights until well past 3, like you said. And he would sleep over. I would sleep at his place, just grinding it out in the trenches. And I wouldn't trade those memories for anything. At the time, you think you're suffering, but then when you get out of it and like you like achieve your goals, it's actually not quite as satisfying as like the first. You know, when you're just dead broke, struggling on a dream, like you're trying to make it, and you have foregone these other, careers, and like the years go by, and I don't know, there's something like incredibly beautiful about the struggle in any industry, by the way, that you really can't get back. So now, like, the hunger isn't quite there for me to get on a show or something like that, because I've already done it. But now I'm looking for that in other pursuits. This, by the way, is one of them, because I've never done YouTube or any of this stuff, kind of hosting or anything. So I was like, maybe, and I've enjoyed the struggle in this as well. Also, I'm trying to design a product for you, a company, and so that's all relatively new to me. And I like the struggle of it. And maybe one day I'll have achieved it, and then I'll look back and be like, I didn't even realize that I was in the struggle, and that was a good time. So with him, there was several years working together where I didn't realize that I was in the struggle. I mean, I knew I was struggling, but that was a good time. That was like the best time. I would not trade that for anything. There's a comedian who said I've been a stand-up comedian for 36 years, and I've only been successful for the last 4. But the first 32 years I struggled, and I loved it. And that's true. Anyway, there's so much more to say about this stuff. All the details, all like the nitty gritty of this stuff, which I can't wait to share with you. From what I've done in Hollywood and from what he's done, my ambition was a little bit different than everyone else's. I was just trying to find the hardest thing that I could do, because I wanted to see if I could do it. It was sort of an experiment in my own limitations. I wanted to see how far I could go as a person. So I chose the thing that everybody scoffs at because they think it's like a pipe dream. And I was like, well, if other humans can do it, let me see if I can. I'm a human. And I achieved more than I thought I would somehow. But I'll take you through each one step by step. It makes me really emotional to think about that stuff he said about CBS. I remember every day grinding it out, every hour. And I owe certain people a lot, certain people who are not working in that field anymore, and they've certain people who have gotten fired by like the politics of it too, which is why there's interdisciplinary knowledge in this whole library that I'm making for you. Like when you analyze politics and gossip and human tendencies and all these things, you find this beautiful mess that I want you to be able to take a look at in a large from a large vantage point versus just being in it. There's so much to say, honey, so much. So I'm going to stop here because it's probably already half an hour long or something. But yeah, I'm sorry about the stutter. I'm going to keep working on it. It's like almost impossible. Sorry, because why it really frustrates me is because the thing that I want to say, I'm not saying the way I want to say it, which is really tragic to me, because I want to say it a certain way, but I have to keep doing these little speech tricks to try to get it out. But bear with me. I'll get better at it, and I'll keep working on it. Anyway, if you want to be a writer in Hollywood, there's some advice for you. And if you want them back, I can bring them back, and we can go through like the details, like how the hell do you write a script? What does that mean? What software is it? How many pages is it? What does it got to look like? Who speaks when and why? What kind of it's called like a beat sheet. What kind of beats do you have? How is a scene made? what's a protagonist, antagonist, anti-hero, you know, all the stuff that you have to know like the details of. And even how like a room is designed out, like it's called a room, which is basically like a writer's room. A bunch of people that kind of spitball ideas, and then they find some ideas that they like, and then they'll break off, and maybe one or two people will go just, you know, write that script, and they bring it to like the showrunner. He's the guy who's in charge of everything, the head honcho, which is a Japanese word from World War II, honcho. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's all in the pursuit of a moment where you watch something or you read something, like the Sylvia Plath quote that I'm going to have up, where you just feel this emotional connection to it. You saw the episode about cancer with the late Matt Miller, and we both bonded over No Country for Old Men. That's a screenplay that was written down and is based off of a book by Cormac McCarthy. And why we resonate with it in a certain way, I mean, it just means so much. Me and my ex-girlfriend, every Sunday, the one time that we got along really well, every Sunday we'd watch Game of Thrones together in bed and just watch Game of Thrones. And that, I mean, like, I wouldn't, you know, trade that for anything. That was just like we just bonded over this script. It's like the script first. Like, it's always the script first. It's the story. Story drives everything, which includes the story of you here, which I think I've read for you, the story of your life that got made into a movie called Arrival. It's all connected, honey. I'm going to shut up. These things go on too long. Hope you're having a good day. Yeah, hope you're having a good day. Love you and I love you. Ciao.